Here we go again. Here we go again
It's
with
back.
season 2 of the Rings of
Somehow,
Power.
Rings of Power returned.
I'm
It's
a
amazing.
bit tired, to be honest with you. I'm a bit tired from watching 3 episodes today. But
I
we
was
did it.
actually like I had a kind of had a blast. Um,
Just rolling through
just
it.
I made myself some hobo pizzas and sat down and grabbed a drink and just binged them. And they're bad, but I'm glad I watched them.
Yeah. So we're going to be going through episodes 1 through 3. We're going to share our thoughts.
Hmm.
There's so much to this, and yet so much that's so similar to the last season. Criticisms that we've brought up from season 1 are going to be repeated in season 2. I'm hearing that there's a lot of people online that are disappointed with this, who are initially being like, hey, this is going to be amazing. And now they're like leaving bad reviews and stuff. So I don't even know what the reception as a whole is going to look like for this season,
Hmm.
because it doesn't seem very bright, the future of this season, right?
No.
And we still have what, 5 more episodes to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So I guess game plan. We need to sort of shotgun through a couple of our notes.
Yeah.
We both have notes, and we want to kind of talk about them. I say you give a note, I'll give a note, and we'll see how that goes.
All right. So I think my notes are going to be somewhat in order.
Hmm.
So obviously the intro with Sauron in a different form,
Hmm.
and Adar and the orcs and everything in that area. First off, that's such a weak looking Sauron.
Yeah.
Like what a horrible choice of casting.
Right. Also, this is Sauron. Can he not defeat like a couple of orcs?
Yeah,
It
he made
took
him super weak.
it took the greatest armies of elves and dwarfs to take him down.
Right.
I think even without the ring, he was probably he was a shapeshifter, dude. He could turn
Yeah.
into werewolves and vampires and stuff.
Yeah.
You couldn't take down a group of orcs. Come on, man.
Also, he's like a master deceiver, and he
Mhm.
couldn't get the orcs on his side. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like what's the purpose of them turning on him? Just to create the development for this Adar character,
I think
and
so.
also because they had to explain Halbrand from the first season. So they're
Mhm.
doing all they can to connect the dots from Halbrand to Anatar, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a mess.
I
So
I will say, right? Because I'm going to try to do this.
mhm,
I don't think the show deserves any props because of its budget, because of what it's doing to Tolkien lore, right? But at times there were things that I found myself enjoying, and like the black goose stuff I thought looked pretty crazy and cool. And kind of gross, and that kind of makes sense for an evil character, and I
well,
didn't hate it a ton.
so the books, in the Return of the King appendices,
Hmm.
when it talks about, the fall of Numenor,
Yeah.
it talks about how Sauron was also swallowed up by the ocean, right?
Mhm.
When during the fall of Numenor, and he didn't take another being form again after
Mm.
that. It said that his physical form was lost, and that he became like a dark soul, like a dark cloud or whatever,
Right.
right? And that was how his soul lingered in Middle Earth, and then we get to it. So Anatar is kind of like I'm pretty sure, the last physical form that
Mhm.
Sauron takes, the outside of his monstrosity, um, and And so this black goo stuff, the symbiote looking thing, wormy kind of thing, it's not a bad idea. I didn't care so much for the nerfing of it because
Mhm.
some ways he just came across as weak, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting visual choice to communicate survival, like,
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
ability for him to linger in Middle Earth even when he is diminished. I wanted to point out in that scene, that whole thing was a rip off of Gollum's cave from Return of the King.
Oh, yeah.
With
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
fading to black, the sound effects, everything, the way it moves, it was literally
Mhm.
the transformation from blood to symbiote body or whatever for Sauron
Yeah.
was literally formatted and edited and filmed the same way for Gollum's transformation at the top of Return of the King, Peter Jackson trilogy. It's just a member berry in there,
Yeah,
right?
oh, there's tons of those. What's your next note? Do you have something after that?
No, you go ahead, man.
Um, just the fake Tolkien writing, where you got, like, the old man who's telling him things, and he's like, "Nah, I can't." He tells him, like, "It's your choice. To be good, you just have to do it, you
Yeah.
know, today, and then again tomorrow, and again the next day." It's like, "All right, enough with your you I know you think what you're doing is, you know." And in another project, that might have been good dialogue for characters that aren't these characters,
Right.
to be like, "Yeah, you have to choose to be good." You have to choose that every day, right?
Mhm.
But it doesn't feel genuine in this world that's supposed to be Tolkien's world, and I found myself doing that pretty often, was being like, "Man, I feel like I would enjoy the dynamic between these characters or this kinda storyline if it wasn't Tolkien, if it wasn't a Tolkien, Lord of the Rings skin suit."
I don't it's such a shallow thing, right? First off, they're wanting to tell these stories that ultimately, like, some of these characters are fundamentally dislikable.
Mhm.
So, Galadriel is written in a manner that she's fundamentally disliked, to her core. She's flirting with how disliked, Amandla Stanberg's character was in The
Yeah.
Acolyte.
She
It's
just needs a
just
diss track.
yeah, it's literally just not enjoyed, and her character's written so annoying. I
And
think
and
the
she doesn't have the acting chops for Galadriel.
no, partly, not in personality or in stature, right?
No, and I'm gonna be honest, not in face. Her face has none of the sort of commanding kind of, presence that Kate Blanchett's does.
Yeah.
She's not an ugly woman, she's, you know, she's kind
She's
of
not Galadriel,
she's
right?
pretty in a regular way. She's regular pretty. She's not
Yeah.
like, a unique sort of unworldly pretty, and I've noticed that for a lot of the elves, they are kinda busted. All the
Yeah,
elves are
they
in this are kinda
the
busted.
way they're communicating, there's no nobility there, and every time Galadriel is looking up at somebody, I get annoyed.
Yeah,
Every time, man.
yeah.
So,
They force her. Oh, I'm sorry, you got a note.
I just wanted to point out the fact that throughout this thing, it's season 1 as well, but season 2, it's lore from the books is an Easter egg.
Mhm.
It's not a part of the story.
Yeah.
In the so you have member berries, which are from the Peter Jackson films,
Mhm.
where they just kinda, like, cross-reference each other,
Yeah.
or not cross-reference, I guess just call back to the movies as member berries, and then the lore is not actually motivating the main story here, it's just an Easter egg. It's just to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, look, an event that's out of place and involving characters that don't don't
Yeah.
actually be
Or
involved
like
are
or like
involved
we
in."
mention, or anytime they mention the history, right?
Mhm.
where Kierden says, "Oh, your father would be proud," and we are like, "Oh, we know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
He's the star. He's that guy, right?" Or
Mm-hmm.
he says something about Manway, and we're like, "Ah,
Yeah.
ah."
Yeah.
That's what they
Exactly.
want. That's what
Yeah.
they want from us to make social
But
media posts
freaking
about, "Oh, he mentioned Manway."
right. When the Anatar reveal. He just
Mhm.
wants everyone to be like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha." And
Ah!
it's just not going to happen because you can't give us a bunch of nonsense and then a skip like we're happy when all of a sudden your Easter egg lore doesn't even fit with what's set up because we already know the story.
Mhm.
We already know what happens, right?
Um, but yeah, so we're sort of going through notes, and you guys are hopefully trying to follow along. Uh, the episodes we can't recap the whole episode,
We can't
but
recap
s-
3
we got
episodes right now.
Sauron's thing that's going on. Then we got Galadriel and Elrond, and then eventually Gil-galad, and they have to instruct Galadriel like she's a child to
Mhm.
tell them who Halbrand. They're like, "Come on, tell us." She's like, He's a guy. He's not, but he's not who he says he is." And they're like, "This is dangerous. Why aren't you telling us these?" And she's like, she does not want to tell them
I
for
don't know
some
why.
unknown reason. I
Shame.
The
A
idea,
shame.
I think, in her mind is that she thinks she can solve it. She caused all these problems.
Mhm.
She caused all of these problems.
She's causing more problems by not communicating it.
Exactly, because she thinks she's right. She thinks she can do it without help. Um, so she says he is no man.
Mhm.
We get that line call back. Remember
Yep.
Peter
Yep.
Jackson when
Yep.
she says I am no man. She
Yeah.
says he is no man. There's melodramatic acting. Oh my gosh,
And who's the guy? What's the king's name? Um,
Gil-galad.
Gilgalad. That actor, I don't know why they freaking chose that
Yeah,
actor.
he's the High King.
He's just a pudgy,
Look, there's nothing wrong with his face, but he got a really fat kind of neck, like
and he's got his
lower neck.
belly's sticking out, dude.
Yeah,
Who the busted elves,
the
the
butt.
not noble freaking king, you know what I mean? Like none of these characters feel like elves at all.
Yeah.
They feel like something you'd see from, the Discworld series. Just
Yeah.
a bunch of silly
Yeah,
characters.
silly versions.
There's
And
nothing to be taken seriously here. It's all feels like a
like
joke.
like in a parody, like in a Discworld book, it would say the elves, they're glorious and beautiful to look on, so they think,
Mm.
as they try to stuff their rolls down into their armor, or hike their eyebrows up so nobody can, see the wrinkles on their forehead, right?
Right.
That's how the elves feel. They don't, except for, I would say there's a few examples. I think Círdan looks good. He looks like an elf.
He
Um,
does.
I prefer the elf version of Halbrand.
You
I
do?
think he looks like a deceiving, kind of conniving elf guy. I like him better than human Halbrand.
Standing next to Celebrimbor, I gotta be like, they're probably the gay characters.
I was kind of waiting for them to like touch hands,
they
brush.
they're putting off serious into each other energy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Now,
Um, let's see what's after they have the cliff scene that mirrors the throw it into the fire scene.
yeah, so we go to
Morgoth.
Adar. Yeah, we go to Adar. Halbrand's turned himself in to
Mm.
start his deception,
Yeah.
right? To begin the deception. And he opens up with another reference, another Easter egg,
A
another
deep cut.
callback.
This one's a deep
This is a
cut.
deep cut. I believe he says, "Let my
Let
people
my
go."
people go. You don't have to. You don't have to be like religious, but you know where that's from.
You know.
Everybody knows where that's just straight from the Bible. And I
Yeah.
know people might be thinking, yeah, I'm sure other people have said, let my people go without knowing that Moses said it, right? But him saying, but everybody knows the quote. That's what is That's what's informing his line delivery here, right? We're not all supposed to pretend like we've never heard that line before.
Yeah. I think the filmmakers put it in there just to get your attention.
Mhm.
Just to they probably thought, "Oh, it's a power statement."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it just comes up. I mean, if the filmmakers want people to start remembering, good stories and stop focusing on this bad one you've made for us, go ahead and keep doing that. Just keep putting in
Oh,
references to
keep
better stories.
yeah, keep putting in references to better stories, stories that were told millennia ago.
and
Moses said, "Let my people go," thousands of years ago, and modern day writers can't think of anything, so they're like,
how about this one?
This line goes pretty hard. This line's
Similar,
pretty fire."
yeah, similar to
Ah,
the ripoff of Gollum's transformation.
mhm,
Everything when it comes to the evil, the orcs, right? Adar's camp or whatever, everything's filmed as a ripoff of Peter Jackson's cinematography style.
mhm.
Everything's got the Dutch angles, everything's got the ooh kind of thing. And it's great for Peter Jackson. It's just feels cheap here. And I'm a big fan of cinematography and filmmaking, and I'm a big fan of paying homage to creators who's done something before. But when you're just constantly repurposing literally a filmmaking style and
Mhm.
trying to mimic the vibe visually to a T, it really gets under my skin because it's
Yeah,
just like have an original thought, you know?
yeah, I agree. Um, I have a couple notes. One says dialogue has no weight. It's probably in reference to Galadriel and excuse me. Galadriel and Elrond talking after he escapes. He goes to
Mhm.
Círdan, talks to Círdan about the rings. She goes and she says, "Slow your roll, Gil-galad. I'm gonna go talk to him as a friend."
Right.
And he's I they say something about it was folly. He says he asks her if it was, was it your he's trying to get her to admit she's wrong,
Right.
right?
Right.
And she says it what? I was wrong,
Yes.
right? And then he like disappears and and then Círdan's on the sea with the rings. And then it cuts to um I don't know the halflings' names.
Nori and Poppy.
Okay. It's Nori and
Gandalf.
Stranger Danger.
If you couldn't tell this is Gandalf
I have a
with
theory.
the mimicking of Ian McKellen, everything, all the way
I have a
down
theory.
to he mimics. I wrote this down in my notes, and I am skipping ahead, but I'm just as to prove my point. He mimics this that from Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen. Oh, he
He
literally exclaims, mimicking this guy.
he
It's obviously Gandalf.
he no, because he mimics Gandalf, he mimics Radagast, and he mimics Saruman. He mimics all of them. I have a theory.
When does he mimic Saruman?
In like in the I think the first in season 1, he has some Saruman lines in the beginning.
Okay.
Um, but I have a theory that is probably completely wrong, but I would
Okay.
be super justified if they went with this. He is all the wizards. They have all been sent as this guy. He is the wizards, right?
hmm
And he
I can't call this a fan theory because you're not a fan.
he becomes each of them.
Okay.
somehow, right? I know it's wild, it's insane, but
I wouldn't put it. I mean,
the way that they set up I wouldn't put it past the writers of this show to look at that line in Two Towers where Gandalf says, "I am Saruman,"
mm,
as he should be, right?
right.
And they look at that and go, maybe all the wizards are kind of like the same being, right?
No,
And
but you
so
could
if
take
if it's one dude
2
and he's
seconds.
if it's one dude and he splits into the wizards, right?
2 seconds would put this theory to rest. 2 seconds of research.
Okay.
If you do a Google search, you learn they came to Middle Earth at different times. They didn't
Oh,
come all at the
well,
same time.
they're doing everything at once in this
I
show.
know, I
So
know. I'm just
that's
saying.
the reason that that's the theory. I know they came to Middle Earth at different times.
I know, but what I'm saying is it would be such a slap in the face of obvious lore to do something like that. Also, the uniqueness of Gandalf, him before he's Gandalf, when he's in Valinor as a Maiar, right?
Mhm.
The uniqueness of him is the individuality because he was believed by the king of Valinor to be the most worthy to go to Middle Earth to turn the hearts away from Sauron, right?
Mhm.
Because he went to the king and he said, I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I have the ability to do this. I think you should find someone else, right?
Yeah.
Because he just felt like he was a lowly Maiar. And the king said, that makes you the most worthy. You
Mhm.
are the most worthy to do this task. That's what's unique about Gandalf, right? And they also came at different times. And of course, Gandalf came at the beginning of the Third Age, or towards the beginning of the Third Age, not in the Second Age at all. But this
Well,
is Gandalf. It's clearly Gandalf.
but see, this is like this is where the writing, you're not thinking stupid enough. If they sent all of them as one person, right?
hmm
He they could technically still be introduced at different points. Pieces of him could break off at different points. And it's like, oh, technically, Gandalf the Grey, as we know him, didn't break off until the beginning of the Third Age.
Ugh.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
Break off what become actualized.
Mhm.
And then once all
Because
5 are
yeah,
actualized, the stranger disappears.
once he's given a name.
Oh, come
You know,
on.
what if they give him a name? What if they name him Saruman? You know?
Dude, you're playing
I
into some theories that's making me more upset, and it's not even
like, yeah.
confirmed in the
All
show.
right, let's move on. Let's move on.
Freaking free.
The stage Irish is back.
Yeah.
They're terrible Irish accents. They capture Poppy. She's following them.
Which was just another kind of member berry of
Member
when
berry.
they
We're being
Frodo
followed. We're going around in
and
circles.
well, when Frodo and Gandalf felt danger when he was telling him the story, right?
Mhm.
And they said, they heard some outside. They thought it was danger. They knew the ring wraiths were after him. Yanked him inside, and it was Sam, right?
Oh, dude, I was thinking completely different because they were like, she's like, we're going around in circles. We're going around in circles. And that's like, that's from Two Towers. Where
Yeah.
Sam's like, we're going around in circles, Mr. Frodo.
No, they're mixing
Yeah,
them
they're
up,
mixing
right?
and matching, dude.
But what I'm saying is the whole idea of feeling like there's danger,
Mhm.
setting a trap, and then realizing it's your best friend. They did that
Yeah.
with Sam and Frodo, right? It's that scenario, and then they mixed it with other scenarios from Lord of the Rings as well.
I have the Contrivance song is, their song that they've been singing their whole lives, specifically designed to help them on this adventure.
On this one,
And to
so
bring
all of the other Harfoots, it's a pointless
it's
song.
a pointless song.
But
Means
this was,
nothing.
like, predestined for Nori and Poppy
You would
to help.
think that the travel song that they tell would be like, "Oh, this maps our entire circuit,
Yeah.
and all you have to do is sing it to find your way back to us," which
Right.
would completely destroy their whole, if you get left behind, sorry,
Right.
right? Because in fact, that in designing that song, they could have designed a song that would help those that fall behind find them again. They design a traveling song that would help you if you got lost somewhere on the route. All you would have
Right.
to do is start following, the
But
song.
no, they
But
made a
no,
song that makes no sense for them.
it makes no sense. It's for only if you're on this specific journey.
Right, this very specific one.
Yeah, what you got next?
Let's see. Oh man, I kind of skipped out on some of my notes for a long section of this, but getting to the elves, sort of the elves at the tree. So let's get into the
Well,
rings bit,
I
if you don't
hold
mind.
on. Before that,
I would say just go with your notes.
the
I'll comment
sea
as we go.
the sea knocks the boat because the sea is always right.
Oh
You
yeah,
gotta remember that for Kiernan. He's about to throw the rings in.
except when the eagles show up, then they're always right.
The sea is always right. It
Okay.
knocks the boat to the point where it doesn't knock the rings into the water, it knocks them back into the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Then he pours them into his hand. You get the most generic coin clinking sound effect. It's like clink, 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 like something you would hear in Skyrim or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's not how rings would sound.
No.
They wouldn't clink like coins.
Yeah, they just pulled a sound effect off the
Yeah.
internet. Some stock sound effects websites.
Yeah, and then I don't have like a ton of notes at the ring ceremony, except they repeat lines to drive them home. Anytime they say something important, they repeat it twice. You'll notice it throughout probably. Go back, probably watch the first season. You'll probably notice it then too.
Yeah.
They'll say things twice to drive them home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an annoying trend.
All three of these episodes, and I'm sure the season as a whole, ultimately is leading to. It's just a bunch of filler scenes that leads nowhere, or has very little to do with where it is leading. Right.
Yeah.
And so this whole back and forth between Galadriel and Elrond, right? And the mistrusting, and he flees, and then he comes back, and they end up with the rings anyway. Like, the whole first episode was a bunch of pointless moving around the map. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely pointless. You could have accomplished the same thing in half the time and actually written something interesting here.
But mean,
no.
They do the song, they do the elf song.
Yeah, he's just like, we're gonna leave Middle Earth.
We're leaving. Sorry.
We're done.
Yeah, it's over. I believe Elrond wants to fight. He's like, dude, we don't need the rings. We need to stop Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
And but then the rings show up with Círdan, and he's like, I believe in this. So here you go. Gil-galad. And then what scares him? Was it Elrond? Elrond?
Yes.
He's like, no.
Yeah. It was Elrond that scared him, because
Elrond's the only homeboy here making any kind of sense in my mind. He's like, Sauron made these rings. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. He's got one look.
We're like, Galadriel just confessed to her being an idiot. And now she's conspiring with the king and the oldest elf in all of Middle Earth to continue this trend of being an idiot.
Then the rings fall, and you get that classic ring falling like it did in the
Dink,
movie.
dink,
You
dink.
remember from Peter Jackson movies?
Mhm.
And then idiot girl picks it up. And nobody says stop, wait. She missed Sauron
Yeah.
by who knows, a couple months.
Yeah.
Searched for him for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Failed. Didn't recognize that his mark was Mordor.
Mhm.
Failed. Jumped off the boat going back to you know the homeland
Mhm.
and met Sauron.
And then aided
Still-
him.
That hated it. It kind of fell in love with him a little bit. Still failed to recognize that he was a bad guy.
Yeah, all of these things, plus the fact that in this story, Lady Galadriel is not Lady Galadriel. She's just some generic elf named Galadriel.
Yeah,
in
she's
this
Warrior
story,
Galadriel.
she's not even the Galadriel in the story. She's just an elf with the name Galadriel.
Yeah.
Lady Galadriel does not exist in this story.
Lady Galadriel has all of this in like awesome, intense history with magic and people and interactions with all of these other elves. She feels like she has none of that.
No, she doesn't have any of that. There's a reason why Lady Galadriel is chosen to be one of these ring bearers.
Mm-hmm.
Because she is the second oldest, the wisest, and the most trusted elf next. Well, she is like the most trusted elf.
Yeah,
It all
made
of
the
Middle-earth.
hierarchy made sense. It was
Yeah.
like Círdan, the oldest elf in Middle Earth. Yeah, that makes sense. He's probably the smartest, the wisest.
Galadriel, second oldest, most powerful, most wise.
magic user.
Most powerful and most wise, right?
And
Second
then
oldest.
High King Gil-galad.
Yeah.
Like the king of the elves in
Yes.
this area. Yeah, that kind of makes sense
Yes.
for the bearers of these rings. But in this, it's old ship guy,
Old crazy shipper.
old crazy ship guy who listens to the waves.
The pudgy
and
king who
controls
doesn't know what he
fish.
wants.
The pudgy king and idiot girl.
Generic idiot girl.
Super, I would say not generic. She's super idiot girl.
Yeah.
She
Well,
really
generic. She is
dumb.
of no one importance.
Tries to hide
right,
her
in the story.
mistake to the point where she doesn't want to tell them that this dude who infected the rings is Sauron.
Yeah. No, it's very frustrating to see them butcher, and it's like I said earlier. This story is just lore is Easter eggs, and it is not built around the lore. They just drop in lore when it's convenient for their story that they're trying to tell. Let's see that.
Are we getting into episode 2?
Let me just make one final thing. This season 1 felt the same way, but for some reason, I'm getting it even more in this season. Tell me if you feel the same way. This show feels like it feels crowded and it feels small and just in a CGI world.
Oh, for a show that shows tons of like landscapes and wide shots, it really does. It doesn't have the breadth of the original Lord of the Rings movies, which felt big, dude.
I don't think there's very limited actual cinematography that does not have some kind of assistance or complete animated surroundings, right?
Yeah.
Almost all the shots, not all of them, but the majority of the shots in this show feel artificial.
Yeah.
And that tree that comes back to life, that looked fake as crap. There was even, if you looked at the tree, there was no texture on it.
No.
There was no texture on the tree. It just looked like a rendered tube with branches, and then little yellow things were coming out of the ends. like
I
resprouting.
I would say like I think one good piece of acting for me came out of the first episode. It's when Elrond walks up to Galadriel, looks at her, and walks away. That's it. They don't say anything. He looks at her and leaves, and I was like, okay, that was that.
Finally, they showed and didn't
Finally,
tell, right?
that felt like a good interaction. And there,
Annoyance.
in the next couple episodes, you will notice that my favorite scenes have very little dialogue. But
Just as
there's a couple scenes where actors just look at each other, and I was like, "Okay,
let me ask
alright."
you this. Since he was such a big part of the first episode, the new Adar, right? The guy who's playing the new
Mhm.
Adar. What do you think? Do you like him better than the first season's Adar? I kind of do. He's a little more brooding. He feels like he has a better screen presence, honestly,
It's,
for the character they're trying to make, which is not in the
right.
books.
It's I see no difference. It doesn't bother me either way. I liked the first actor. He got snubbed in Game of Thrones and probably realized that maybe sticking with this franchise was not a great idea.
The first season of this, he didn't feel formidable. This Adar has the presence of feeling a little formidable.
A little bit.
Not a rival to Sauron,
No,
but
but I in the
more hardened,
shows, in the show, in the way that the show is telling the story, who he is as a person is more formidable.
Yeah,
Um,
for this season than last season. That's what I feel like.
let's move in. We gotta move quick. Well, let's move into the second episode. Acting still sucks.
It doesn't get better.
It does not get better. The opening scene is like Galadriel and Gilgalad, or not Gilgalad, and Celebrimbor. They're like in the forest and they're like talking to each other. And I know it's a dream sequence, but it's still bad acting.
And that was a representation of what's to come for
Celebrimbor. Yeah.
Celebrimbor,
Oh,
right?
it was not subtle at all.
Mhm. They
Um
literally had the spikes coming out.
literally had him up on the thing like a banner.
Yeah.
And he says the thing, one ring to rule them all.
Yeah. But the thing is,
One
it wasn't a
ring.
dream, it was a daydream because it cut
Yeah.
to her, and she's just standing there zoned out.
So yeah, he says the thing. I'm looking at my notes here. They roll their R's a bunch.
Mhm.
They say like Rebor. They say
Mordor.
Mordor. Oh Galadriel. Like it's too much, man. But the
I
ring,
am Anatar.
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 The ring is activating her magic.
Yes.
She has shown no magic up to this point. No aptitude for magic, no elf magic, no nothing. No healing magic, no nature magic, no magic.
Nothing of consequence.
And now the ring is activating magic. Like she's starting to have a connection. She's starting to see the future. And yeah, that's yay, magic.
And
like-
honestly, the magic gods shouldn't give her anything. She's
Nothing.
undeserving.
Idiot girl.
Which is crazy to me how stupid she is as a character. If they're going to keep her backstory that she's born in Valinor and then comes to Middle Earth, if they're going to keep that backstory, she's experienced Valinor. She was born there. She was a child there.
Yeah.
She wanted to see Middle Earth. Like, why is she so stupid? I did this on my live stream the other day. She, at this point in Middle Earth, when the Rings of Power are being made, Galadriel is 3,400 years old.
Yep.
Yes, there is another couple thousand years until the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, but she is thousands of years old. She was born in Valinor, and she acts like an incompetent, annoying child. She acts like she's 17 years old.
Mhm.
And
She acts like, anybody, but like you said, between the ages of, like, 17 and, like, 27 might
I
act.
can't. So the creator said, we want to see, like, we thought it'd be interesting to take Galadriel, put her on the battlefield with a sword, and then go through the process of seeing where she's going to become because of this long period of time before the Fellowship of the Ring and the Rings of Power, and see her become Lady Galadriel. But it's like, no, she's been Lady Galadriel. She's married. She has a kid at this point.
Mhm.
She's been Lady Galadriel. She's over 3,400 years old.
I mean,
I don't understand this thought
to the
process.
point where she's attempting to, like, make artifacts that, extend her magic
Hmm.
so that she can heal things around her, so that um so that her magic will extend beyond what she can do.
Yeah.
And it's believed that um what is it? Is it the necklace?
The Star of Elendil?
Yeah, the necklace
Mhm.
is something that she made.
No. The Light of Elendil. Yeah, the star that ends up in the movies, Eowyn gives to
Right.
Aragorn. In the books, Galadriel gives it
Galadriel
to
made that. See, and it's
Aragorn.
be like a temporary extension of her magic that she put aside. She didn't need anymore when she
Correct.
got the Ring of Power.
Correct.
So, uh
But yeah, getting back to this, freaking it opens, she's starting to have magic, she's starting to have
new magic.
visions. Da
And
da 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 da.
something I noticed in this show, they everything has audio cues, everything has musical cues. Anytime they're switching to new places, new characters, there is too much music
Mhm. There's
in
also
this show.
tons of fading to black.
Oh,
There's
man.
so much crossfades and fading
There's
to black.
sometimes at the end where I'm like, "Okay, we're closing in on the ending." It fades to black. I was like, "Oh, okay."
These episodes have 5 different endings. It's just like, "Ba-dum," and then nope, no credits, and it makes me sad every time the
But
credits
no,
don't
it's
show up.
there's so much music in this.
Yeah,
So much that it's like it's almost hard to keep track of the music
yeah.
because you're with some characters and some music is playing, and then you're with other characters and some music is playing, and you get that about 4 or 5 times, and so it never really feels like there's any sort of theme
Mhm.
to anybody in the
Yeah.
show. Um
It's does this also gets under my skin a bit. So the second episode is where we see a lot of Celebrimbor, and it really gets under my skin. I know that the online is nicknaming him Grandma Brimbor, right?
Mhm.
Because he's an old dude with a grandma haircut. The fact that they did this casting choice to make
Mhm.
him more elderly, we now have Círdan, and we have Galadriel. Both of them are way older than
Yeah.
Celebrimbor. So why does Celebrimbor appear to be such an old man?
Yeah. I don't understand. They
They
clearly
lost their mind
they
when they
clearly
made these
didn't
casting
understand what
choices.
they didn't understand what they were making. They had no idea. They didn't know anything
Celebrimbor
about the timelines. They didn't know anything about these characters. It makes no sense
literally
why they look the way that they do.
elves as they age, they plateau at kind of like this middle age kind of range, and they
Mhm.
move so slow you can't see their progression, right? We're talking about 6 7 8,000 years before they start to appear elderly. All right,
Mhm.
why Celebrimbor looks like an old man, and he is younger than Galadriel.
They should all look the age of Galadriel
They should
and
all
Elrond. They all should look like young people.
No, they all should look the middle age, like early 40s, like they all did in Peter Jackson movies. because that would be the appropriate age thing that they would just plateau at for freaking 4,000 years. You know, they would just look the
the young
same.
one should be Elrond. He should look young.
Yeah, sort of.
He's probably one of the youngest ones.
He does marry Galadriel's daughter.
Yeah, he should look pretty young.
The fact that he looks a little older than Galadriel is crazy because, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He marries her daughter,
So music's uninspired. There's too much of it. Let's see.
The witch, the witch guy.
Well, I have they do the naming thing for him.
Which naming thing? Oh.
They do the naming thing for. Is that before or after the witch guy?
I can't remember. I think
it's
after. Before.
Yeah, it's before it. No, the naming is after because they're going after him with the blank. No, it's before. Slightly before. They do the naming thing where they're like, "Oh, should we call you this? Should we call you that?"
Mhm.
And he's like, "No one can give you a name."
Right.
All of these, everybody in the world who has names given to them by their parents.
You just know it. You just have one.
Wrong.
You just have a name.
This guy is basically a baby. Don't listen
mimicking Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Like literally everything. This dude, I gotta be honest with you. I'm most impressed by the inflection of voice and the kind of like breathiness that he is adding to his performance to really try to mimic Gandalf a little bit here.
There is one time, I want to say it's when he casts the tornado dust devil, where he goes, "Ah!"
That's what I wrote down. I wrote "ah" on my notes. I wrote "ah," mimicking Gandalf.
It's not. It's close, but Gandalf would yell more like a, "Ah!" You know, he's like it's like a, "Ah!"
No,
it's like it's higher.
No,
Dude,
it was
it's
right
way
there.
Higher. It's not.
Right. You're talking about
the scene.
You're talking about a level of no. It was right there. It sounded like Gandalf.
There was a scene where he yells, and it doesn't sound anything like a wizard. What we've heard of the wizards yelling is like a, you know, right?
Well, we've heard
he does
Ian
that
McKellen
a couple
do the Gandalf
times,
a
but
bunch.
there's one scene where he's like, "Ah!" It's way too high pitch for a wizard, man.
But look, we got to get to. So yeah, it's smoke and mirrors. It's Gandalf. It's female Frodo and Sam. We get it. They're trying to cross a desert.
And then evil wizard.
Evil wizard. People are saying that they believe this is the Witch King of Angmar. That's what some people are saying.
I don't know. Is he?
I don't know either, dude.
In Angmar?
I don't know either. Hey, we got somebody showing
I
up.
feel like the Witch King of Angmar would have at least lived in like upper Middle Earth.
That's the thing. I don't know. First off, I don't know a ton about the Witch King of Angmar. Isn't that the one that ends up being the necromancer?
No.
Is the necromancer actually Sauron?
Yeah.
In Dol Guldur.
Yes.
So the Witch King of Angmar that's not the one who becomes the Ringwraith either, because it is the Ringwraith.
That's the one. That's the no man can kill him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Witch King of Angmar.
I guess some people are saying they think this is the Witch King of Angmar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And the thing is, with this story, nobody's going to know. We can't know right now because they're not following any of the consistent timeline of events. There's literally no consistency here. Because wasn't the Witch King of Angmar human?
He's a human.
So if he's around, like he wasn't turned into a ring wraith in the Second Age, right?
I don't know when the kings of men get their rings.
Should be a human king, but who knows? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know the ring wraiths were kings of men.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are still around, if Sauron doesn't make them some kind of have immortality of some sort, then it should be not until well into the Third Age. We're at least 2,500 years from the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, during the time of when the rings of power are made. So that's what I'm saying. It's so confusing. The timeline doesn't make sense if this is the Witch King of Angmar. But that is the
Well,
only logical.
I assume that the humans get the rings in like the end of the Second Age, right? And then Sauron corrupts them into his
Yeah.
servants before the War of the Last Alliance.
Yeah, but he has to craft after he makes all the rings. He has to craft the one ring, right?
So it could
And
also
then
be a blue wizard. I don't think the blue wizards were up to evil stuff.
they were that's the thing is the blue wizards went into the east. That's why they don't show up in the Third Age.
Mm-hmm.
There is rumors that the blue wizards, because there was so much support for Sauron out of the east, right?
Yeah,
There
that they could
is
have been.
that the blue wizards converted in the same way that Saruman did, right? But they never came over to
I
Middle
wouldn't put it
Earth
past
like
I
Rohan,
would.
because we're supposed to be in Rohan. We're in Ruin, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Tolkien said one of the blue wizards hosted cults in Rune. That could be what they're going off of then.
Well, then
could be
that
what
throws away your theory that all the wizards are wrapped up into one stranger.
I thought that would have been so poetically bad. Yeah, that could be, it could be a blue wizard.
I just feel like we have so many characters that they have to address. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
want them to address them all because a lot of them are really freaking
Well,
boring.
we're gonna get a couple scenes of these characters. They jump between so many characters. We're gonna get a couple
Mhm.
with this guy, and then we're gonna go back to the what's going on with Isildur, which we're still talking second episode. I don't think that's come in yet.
Yeah. All of Numenor stuff.
They hide under a blanket just like in Return of the King.
Yep.
Or is that Two Towers?
Which actually, I did sample Gary from Nerderotic, his video on this. He was actually really happy with that scene.
Oh yeah.
He said he feels like that's the one thing they got right with how they hear the horses coming, and then they're packing up real quick, and he turns around and they've disappeared.
So that makes sense. That makes sense for hobbits.
Yeah, he said for hobbits that is like very accurate. It's happens many times in the books. They can just disappear.
And they do
right?
show like in the previous season that their whole thing is hiding.
Yeah.
So
that was the one big positive he said. He also said the orcs do look good, but it's just smoke and mirrors for bad. It's just literally
all
smoke
the
and mirrors
good
for
stuff.
bad storytelling.
All the good stuff in the show is smoke and mirrors for the bad stuff.
Like and the lore Easter eggs is smoke and mirrors to hide the fact that they're not actually following any actual lore. They just drop it in occasionally and retcon their story.
And then not only do they repeat themselves when there's an important thing to say, they do the same thing with visuals. They'll show the same thing twice.
Right.
Like they showed that desert and they're like, oh, we can't go in there. There's no water in there. It's going to be a couple days. And then they're like, oh man, where do we go now?
They're like, we already know.
Go
there it is again.
Right after
we already
they
have our
that.
path. Yeah.
What do you have?
We get to the dwarves. The next thing I have was that was the next thing I have at the well with the desert tornado.
Is that at the well?
That's right at the well. Yeah, but I'm skipping stuff. I didn't write anything down for the dwarves because I'm so confused by the singing. I didn't know what to write down. I don't have any points about this. I'm just confused. They're telling a father-son relationship story in the middle of Disa doing Disa things.
Disa's doing Disa things. The dwarf stuff is the only time I'm like invested in this story is when they're because the dwarves have the only interactions that kind of make sense, that kind of feel real. Like to the point where let's see.
Yeah.
They do. They're trying. It's trying to be Gandalf.
I hear Gandalf constantly in this guy's voice, the inflection and everything. It's not just the words he's saying. Yes, it's some of the words, but it's everything he says. I'm hearing a attempt at mimicking Ian McKellen's Gandalf.
So I've got a whole bunch of stuff for the dwarves. So they open. They talk about the mine shafts.
Yes.
Um,
Song don't work.
the song don't work. The in the scene where the collapse happens, Durin jumps on top of Disa, and I was like,
Good man.
good man, good job. That like every time the dwarf scenes come up, I kind of find something I like a little bit.
Look, Durin and Elrond's relationship was the best thing from season 1.
Well,
It
it was
was.
a little gay.
It was a little gay,
It was a
but it
little
was
bit gay.
it was the best. It was the most engaging thing, if we're being honest.
Okay.
It was very gay, some of the things
dude,
they said.
so
but
got-
I'm just
they-
saying they were actually likable friends in some capacity, right?
Mhm.
I gotta look.
But the sun shafts close
Mhm.
for some reason. They can't open them up because the singers are failing.
Well, they couldn't hear the mountain, and
find
so they couldn't
light.
find the tone. That's what
I
I'm saying.
don't know. They're
She said
miners.
she said
Open
they
up
can't.
this.
She was saying, well, yes, you're right. The traditional Tolkien would just be like, they're mining, right? But Rings of Power, these people are like, no, the women have to find the cracks and like the right way to mine through our singing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Which would be okay if it was like established lore. I don't mind that. That seems like a magic that dwarves would have. We sing, we hit
and
a
it helps
tone.
us mine.
I would say that's actually the singing. Finding your way through the singing is pilfered from the Belgariad, which is another Lord of the Rings like story.
Okay.
Where the dwarf like people sing all the time.
So now
they sing all the tones find their way through the mountains and stuff.
So we're referencing now other IPs. We're also referencing the Bible.
We've referenced the trilogy. We referenced the
Torah,
the book, the Torah. We referenced Belgariad. So yeah, the singing fails. Then Disa blames the king's relationship with his son. I like the dwarves. I didn't like the mining scene where Durin can't mine, even though they showed in the first season him in a contest with Elrond,
right?
Breaking rocks.
Why is he getting blisters?
Why is he getting bullied?
It's also some pretty weak bullying for hardened grown men.
Yeah.
I did what I told you I would do, and we'll talk about this later, but I watched Wind River last night. You want to talk about intense men fighting and escalating emotions? It's that one scene from Wind River, right?
Mhm.
That's how you put a scene like that together with adult men. This felt like 11-year-olds fighting at school.
Yeah, he's
You know
like,
what I mean?
you caused this. You and your dad, you guys caused this, and he's like,
Mhm.
well, whatever. And then they start pushing him
Well,
around.
He's like, "Don't touch me."
This is your king, your prince.
Yeah.
You're the guy that's
Well,
gonna be king.
he was
No.
Remember, he got the thing ripped off him.
Yeah, but still, his dad's the king, right?
But he's in bad graces.
Modern writers now don't understand what royalty is. They don't understand what that means to these guys who are peasants.
Mhm.
They are workers. You don't attack like the royal personage.
It freaking comes up again with the Numenorians in
Yeah.
the next episode.
Yeah.
The same thing.
And then Adisa repeats the line. She says, "I'm afraid, Doran. I'm afraid." She
Mhm.
repeats the line because it's important.
Yeah.
And then we get Victim Galadriel,
Victim Galadriel.
where she's talking to Elrond about Sauron. She's like, "He got into my head. He made me do things."
Made me do dirty, rotten
Yeah.
things.
You have anything on that?
No, other than Elrond's right. That's all I could say.
Dude, he hits the line perfectly. He hits the best line. Did you catch it? The
I think I
line
know what you're talking about, but tell me.
where
say it.
he says, "You thought you had found the lost king, so he could ride you to victory. He used you so he could ride you to victory." I was like, "Yeesh, he's trying to ride Galadriel to victory."
Woo! He did.
It's like that was a bad
Well,
dialogue setup.
it was, but no, I like the way it ended. He said something to the effect of, "If my friendship ever meant anything to you, please go away." Basically, that's what he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. So
And
ultimate in all of these scenes, Elrond is right.
Galadriel from episode 1 of season 1, she's never been right about a thing. So it's kind of what do you call it? Redundant to keep saying in a scene with Galadriel and Elrond
Mhm.
that Elrond was right, because like 100% of the time Galadriel's wrong.
Yeah.
100% of
Yeah.
the
She
time.
hasn't made like a good decision yet. I wrote Chad Elrond. He's really telling her.
Also, just
Um,
working with his hands while he's doing it.
and then we get the interaction between Elrond and Círdan, where Círdan actually says, "Bro, you can't hate the art." Right? He's like, you can hate the art, it's not the art. He says that.
Hate the game, hate the player, not the game, basically.
Basically, he's like, I mean, look at this such beauty that and power and what's been created here,
Right.
in spite of who may have had a hand in it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, hate the player, not the game.
It's actually the art, not the artist, the player, not the game.
Yeah.
He says, "Elrond, the wisest, oldest elf here in Middle Earth."
But he said it in a did it seem to you like they were trying way too hard to make this guy sound wise?
Wise, yeah.
And like he
Yeah.
used phrases that were confusing. Like you almost had to think about it, unnecessarily confusing, because they make all the other characters' dialogue sound so rudimentary so elementary for people who are 3,400 years old. They make
Yeah.
them sound like 17, 15-year-olds. And so it's like they make these other characters sound so adolescent. They had to like try to write something intelligent sounding for this guy, and it just came across as like lofty and confusing. That's what it seemed to me.
So you got the well part,
Yeah.
the plot
Sort
well.
of. Sort of.
They happen upon a plot well, right as
they needed it.
Gandalf needed it.
At the very moment.
Yeah.
And they didn't bother to take a look at the black flag that was there.
Right.
But
They
needed the water.
They didn't notice the giant bell that would sound.
They
And
decided
I
to
can-
start
I can-
splashing and giggling, then like
can
hurrying up and finding
them.
cover.
I can forgive them for not noticing the bell. You're in a hurry. You got to get the water into your friend. But you're right. They did. They started splashing and giggling, as you do.
I mean, when there's water, you splash
Right.
and giggle, but not in a situation where there are people looking for you with weapons.
They
right?
they repeat. We thought we'd lost you,
Mhm.
because it's important. That's all I have on that scene.
Then he conjures. He finds a
staff.
Temporary staff. Gandalf finds one, and he conjures a spell that he cannot withdraw. And
Well, it's because it's the wrong staff.
right, because the staff is the
Hate the
key.
staff. It's the
No,
you know
hate the hate,
hate the
yeah,
wizard.
hate the staff, not the wizard.
It's the wizard, not the staff.
Yeah, exactly. And then Nori and Poppy just disappear up into the tornado.
How much you want to bet that's going to be the thing? Where it's like
What?
it's him. It's not the staff.
Yeah.
It's him.
Wait,
the
he's the reason?
Well, like it won't be, oh, I find my staff and that's what's going to help me control my power.
Mm-hmm.
He'll just be able to control his power.
Yeah, that's a trope. It's not the MacGuffin at the end. It's the heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
your ability to. It's your willpower.
Yeah, exactly. We get all the interactions. There's so much interactions with Halbrand and Celebrimbor at the end of this episode. The big stuff. Do you have anything written for this?
Other than I just felt like they were about to kiss. I don't know.
But
I was wondering if they were going to drop the Anatar bit because I know there was debate. There was debate about, do they have the rights to it? Amazon kind of let us on a little bit there. That's what it felt like. But they did drop it.
They did. And then he does call him the Lord of Gifts because Sauron says, I'm a sharer of gifts. And then it's Celebrimbor who says, Anatar, Lord of Gifts.
Is it Lord of Gifts or is it Giver of Gifts?
It's I thought it was Lord of Gifts, or is it Bringer of Gifts?
It's something
with gifts.
Freaking facilitating gifts. All right.
Yeah, gifts are involved in this transaction, I suppose. And he says so before he changes. He says the name, the Rings of Power. Right. And then shortly after, at the end, we get the Lord of the Rings. He calls Celebrimbor the Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
People are going to think you're serious.
I hate it.
He did a little Jesus pose in the clouds there.
Yeah.
Just so that was first off, we saw that coming because they gave that to us in the trailer. We already knew this was happening.
I will say people were upset. They were like, he's disguised himself now as the elf. He hasn't disguised himself. He still looks like Halbrand because,
audience.
Well, he still looks like Halbrand because changing into he's implying that his elfly form, right, his true form looks similar to Halbrand. Right. So I don't hate it as much as I could have, but that's whatever.
The forehead looked a lot shorter than it did in the trailer. I don't know what they did. Must have CGI just shrunk that forehead a touch. Because that one,
like I said, I like elf Halbrand better than human Halbrand. I think they do it. He looks more elf-like than the majority of the elves in the show. With their stupid short hair.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Every elf that has short hair doesn't look like an elf.
He kind of has that age. He kind of looks the right age.
He actually has the physical stature. He's not freaking frumpy. You know what I mean?
He looks like kind of like an elf.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, dude. That was the big twist, and then they're like propositioning the dwarves to come, and we're gonna make you rings. And then we shift gears into the third episode with hardcore Numenor stuff.
We start off with Brago, or Baron
horse
Barrick. He's Brago.
Who?
He's Brago. The horse, Brago.
Oh, right. Yeah,
he's Brago. Right. I don't know his actual name. It's Baron or Barish.
Right. But
I
so
because I couldn't remember it, so I wrote down Brago.
so we get the horse. Orcs try to take him. Can't do that.
Dude, that scene is so cartoonish.
Yeah,
They
I know.
surround the horse and start talking to him. "Well, you think you're gonna escape, huh? We're gonna eat you."
No, he was like, he basically what was the line? Didn't he say something like, "Don't worry, we won't eat you yet."
Not yet anyway. And then the horse CGI kicks a dude.
Yeah. And then he just finds a seal
just
door.
finds him. The way horses do.
So many skeletons around him. Everyone's been ate except him.
Yeah, remember? Oh, hold on. I wrote this down because I thought it was important. They're like, go get the horse, and the orc is like, no. He went into the Black Forest. Nobody comes out of there alive. It's been like 2 weeks, dude, since this place was destroyed. They've already got lore for this forest.
They've already got tails.
It's been
Well,
2 weeks.
The first company marched out and dropped in a bunch of rumors for the new company as they came in.
That's so I thought that was so dumb. It's been Mordor for literally not very long. And
Like
they've already got established lore.
10 moons it's been Mordor.
Not even that. How long has Halbrand been out here? Can't be long.
Isildur, you mean?
Isildur. Yeah.
You can't go without water that long. So a few
not
days.
Long. A few days. He's been out here a few days. And they've already got lore for this Black Forest.
It's like three orcs went in there, got ate by a spider, and he's like, new rules. Nothing comes out of there alive.
This is the Black Forest. Nothing comes out of there alive.
New rule.
And then the orcs are just like, all right, that's the lore.
The horse runs it.
They figure that's how it's always been.
Right.
They don't remember that this land was ever green when they were here.
It used to be a green forest.
Yeah, they forgot. They've already orcs have very short memories.
But they can have families.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Thing to remember.
Wouldn't it be wild if orcs have such short memories that they just can't, like, yes, the forest is like it is. It's ancient to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're like flies. They have short lives.
Short memories. And so things that have been around for maybe a couple months, they're like, dude, ancient. Like we have known.
The exact
That's part of our
opposite
history. That's part of our lore.
The
exact opposite. They create lore out of the most short-lived things.
Anyway, Isildur battles a tiny little Shelob or whatever that's supposed to be the spider.
Which busts a dude's head like a watermelon.
I think he just needed to get its peckers in their eyes and then reach under the skull.
Don't say it's peckers.
that's beak. It's
no,
beak.
They don't have beaks. They have mandibles. And they have legs.
No, it's a technical term for a spider's mouth is a beak. Look it up. Don't look it up.
I don't believe it's mandibles.
No, it's beak.
It's mandibles.
It's beak.
An octopus has a beak.
I'm telling you, spiders
a
got
squid
beak.
Has a beak. Spiders have mandibles, dude. They got things that do this?
Spiders have beaks.
No.
Beaks. Yes, some spiders have beaks like mouth parts, including the pelican spider.
Okay, you can't use one example.
That's Google gave me.
Mandibles.
Formerly known as, do spiders have mandibles or beaks? Let me look it up. Do spiders have beaks, or how do you spell mandibles? M-A-N-D-B.
Don't even, why are you even putting beaks in this search?
I'm trying to get it to tell me. Spiders
Nobody thinks
mouth parts.
They got mandibles.
Instead of, they have a function like jaw instead of mandibles.
It's not called a beak, though.
It's closer than yours. It says it's not a mandible.
Regardless, it doesn't use
head open.
It doesn't use its not mandibles. It uses its front like little legs beside its mandibles to top his head.
Right.
It's his peckers. He uses his peckers.
That's why I called him that in the
Yeah,
first
he uses
place.
his peckers and pops that dude's head open.
And so yeah, and then so it was trying to do the same to Isildur, but he was too quick.
They don't get bit at all by any of the little spiders. I did think the spider coming out of the pustule egg, like
Was
long little spindly
creepy.
fingers. I thought that was a cool shot.
It's pretty
I ain't
creepy.
gonna lie. I thought that was pretty.
Look, I'm telling you, there's a
solid.
lot of visuals in the show that are good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of visuals in the show that are good. It does not make up for how horrible this story is written.
Mhm.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You can have some creatives working on this, being able to create an interesting looking set or an interesting looking practical effect or a really realistic looking city or escape through on the computer or whatever. Does not mean this is a good show. All it
Mhm.
means is there's some really cool visuals in the show
Yeah.
occasionally.
I don't have any notes for anything with Isildur and the girl, Astrid. Is her
Other
name
than I
Astrid?
don't care.
I don't care.
Hold on, freaking what is the internet in certain circles called the elf guy?
Um,
Don Lemonless.
I thought it was the dark elf.
No, people were calling him Don for like Don Lemon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like
Don Lemonless.
yeah,
Yeah. So
because he kind of looks like Don Lemon.
yeah, but he does Legolas things.
Cool.
His I
Now
don't
that we've
understand
explained
this.
the joke.
I do not understand this. Freaking the busting backwards move.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
So
I'm
I
fully
was
confused.
confused. I thought there was multiple people there. Because between him rolling behind the cart and busting out of it is a little bit, not enough time.
Busting out backwards
is a little bit too quick. He rolls behind the cart, then he's out of the cart.
I don't get what was the how did he do that? Did he
What
force
was the point?
push?
Nothing.
He force pushed
Nothing.
himself.
Nothing. No point.
Anyway, there's a bunch of nonsense happening, really quick action sequence, and then just a sludge. And I mean a sludge. This episode 3 was
I've got it down in the notes. This one was hard. There's way too much.
I was doing this. I was doing this. That's what I was doing the whole third episode.
Yeah, I don't remember the lady dying.
So I know if you watch the recap at the top, it showed stuff from the first season. And apparently she did get shot by an arrow, and I don't remember that. I'm not going to say it didn't happen, but I don't remember that happening.
Okay.
But it showed it in the
Maybe
recap.
she died off screen.
Well, it showed it in the recap and something.
Maybe she got hit by the arrow, but she died off screen. I don't remember her dying in the show.
I think she probably did die off screen because
I could be wrong.
It was the whole thing that was the actor that wasn't coming back for this season. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it was, I think, her choice to not come back for the season.
Smart.
Anyway,
she's dead.
Yeah.
Her idiot son, Theo.
Someone freaking cut that kid's head off or something. Like,
Yeah,
we got to get rid of this character. He's the
pretty-
worst.
Yeah.
He annoys me. I hate this character.
Yeah. So then we go back to Numenor.
Ugh.
Heck yeah, dude. Back in Numenor, where they're all idiots and stupid, and I hate them. And we get a stupid crying scene. She like cries with a lady.
Yeah. After she gets smacked again.
Mhm.
No, these writers don't understand how royalty works.
Am I wrong, or does the sister look like she's lost a lot of weight since the first season?
I do not remember these.
I know.
Characters from the first season.
Isildur's sister, the one who has the Palantir, just in the first season, I get it's 2 years that a lot can happen in 2 years, but I don't know. She looks
an eating disorder.
She looks thinner. Her face looks thinner.
It's possible.
She was, I mean, she was a little bit more heavy chested in the first.
The actor literally
May have,
could have just been like, "Hey, I'm insecure about the way I look in season 1. I'm gonna
that
shape
could have been. I mean, a
be
lot
a
of people
single
were
woman."
saying this is the heavy chested character.
Were they saying that?
I mean, that's basically she was the character with nice,
Yeah.
body.
Mhm.
So, and then no other like personality or anything.
Right.
Um,
But no, the Numenor was all nonsense, and it's really
yeah,
frustrating. It took forever to get to the usurping, forever.
I will say I didn't have much of a problem with the scene of the guy standing up for the queen. It made sense. The logic tracks. He's like, you guys weren't there. I was there, and the queen was there,
Mhm.
right? She was there with the soldiers, and people died for her.
Mhm.
And I respect her, and I will die for her. So maybe you keep your voice down. She died for your. She was injured, crippled for your brother,
Mhm.
right? So I will give the show that they're it makes sense that some people would be for her,
Right.
especially the soldiers who saw that.
But the fact how this is a huge, like, this is like the greatest kingdom of men probably in Middle Earth history is Numenor, right?
Mhm.
The crowds, the coronation. Did you see how small of a crowd that was?
Mhm.
It was like freaking 75 people at best. There's supposed to be, if this was a Peter Jackson coronation, it would look like something on the like we saw at Minas Tirith. You know what I
This
mean?
is the yeah, dude, this is the height. One of the heights of mankind here is Numenor.
Yes.
And not having a big open kind of ceremony for
I
a
think it was
king.
supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be open and they just didn't bring in enough cast members to fill a room. There
Also,
was 75 people at the Numenorian
are you talking about
coronation.
for
Coronation.
the death of the king or for the end?
I'm talking about the end.
Okay. The
The death
the
was small too, but that was more
yeah,
of
the
a
death was
private
small
affair.
too. Which makes sense. It would be smaller. Also, we don't have to point this out, but again, the Numenorians, I don't know why they're not huge.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not look like big people.
Yeah.
Like they don't seem like big people.
They're all pudgy and short and
They're all
nerfy, and they
the
wear these
little
bright
frail
costume
people.
clothes.
And not even the soldiers seem big or anything, and had to be
Dude,
taught by Galadriel.
you know what the Numenorians look like? A bunch of vegans from LA.
Yep.
Because that's who they casted. A
Mhm.
bunch of freaking vegans from LA are playing Numenorians. You
Yeah.
should have went to freaking Alabama and got some corn-fed boys
Yeah, some big some big people.
and freaking make those guys Numenorians.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Just the
They
pudgy,
cry.
soft people.
Yeah, the um no, I want to say that that Numenor scene happens the uh before the Isildur and the girl and Don Lemonless, because I have here in my notes oh man, I think are my notes screwed up because I got some scenes that the stupid crying scene and then the orc scene,
Mhm.
right? Is that when the orc scene happens? The orc with a family? He's like, "Why do we have to war?"
That's the scene that where the cave troll shows
Yeah,
up and asks where's
but
Sauron.
there's an orc. He's like, Adar, we got our home. Why do we have
Can you
to?
why are we going to
Why we gotta
war?
keep fighting? Why we gotta go to war?
And then it shows why he doesn't want to go to war.
Yeah, he's got a family. They're trying to make the orcs relatable. Dude, screw that. That sucks. The orcs are not relatable. They
The
want war
orcs are
always.
animals. The
Yeah,
orcs are
they're
animals.
basic. They're barely sapient.
Yeah, there's a reason they're ugly and gross. It is
Mhm.
a visual cue that these are animals and they are evil and they want death and destruction, and there's no caring behind those eyes.
Yeah.
Don't try to freaking make these freaks family men. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and so then the troll shows up. He's looking for Sauron.
Yeah.
He wants to pledge his allegiance to Sauron.
Mhm.
That's name recognition is important in this world.
It is. And
Um,
Adar's relatively new on the scene.
Yeah, then we get Anatar and Celebrimbor and Durin and Disa. They're talking about the rings, and Anatar and Durin have a little back and forth. And then I had to write this down because Durin says or Anatar says, Elrond mentioned you. He says you're like one of the greatest, kindest, wisest dwarves ever that he's ever met. And I kid you not, they wrote this in the script. Durin's response is funny. He's never mentioned you. I hope I don't have to tell you why that's bad writing, but you might have heard it before in literally everything.
Any old thing.
Funny. They've never mentioned you before.
Yeah.
Everything. I was like, that's the
I'm
comeback.
sure Elrond hasn't mentioned a lot of people to Durin.
Yeah, that's the comeback.
Whatever, dude.
I hate that. And then
Durin and his father get back together.
No, that's later.
Bro.
That's not how my notes are set up.
We gotta roll through
Dude,
this.
There's
this
so
was
much.
This was the most dull episode
They had
ever watched.
a faces in the water.
Yes, they did.
Isildur got attacked by a steak knife. He says to leave it in, which is the only thing, like another thing like that makes sense.
Yeah.
He says, don't pull it out.
Hobbits
bleeding.
Disappearing and leave the knife in.
Leave the knife in. So easy to get out of Mordor. It's like one can simply walk out. And quick to Pelargir. Everything feels shallow. I'm trying to catch up. Dwarves can't do anything. Then we get to the
I'm trying to fit your notes with where in the story.
that's the
dwarves can't do anything.
Can't grow, and they can't negotiate. They can't
right
go out of the mountain to find food. They suck.
Right. They're already being like, we're gonna have to use our emergency supply that only lasts 3 months.
It only lasts 3 months. I was like, that's the perfect amount of time to mine your things open, right?
But also the lights just went out yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right, we got 3 months. I think we can get a couple lights on, some grow beds going in 3 months. That sounds reasonable. We're dwarves.
12 hours. They're hungry and they're dying.
They're dying. And the king is like, all right, yeah, send them in. That makes sense. We're gonna open up the stores, and you're like, oh, he's a good king. You're kind of like, oh, he's a good king. He's gonna see the petitioners. And then Durin, the Durin v Durin scene. What do you think of this scene?
The father-son makeup.
What do you think of that whole scene?
I mean, I as far as actors go, I think it's probably the most believable.
That's the strongest scene in the show so far. I actually
the whole show.
The whole show so far, it's the best scene.
I think anything with Durin, young Durin is probably the best.
I was expecting this though.
That's why I liked him in the first season.
I was expecting this. These two have a conversation in the first season that feels real, legitimate, like acting. Like a father-son relationship. I was waiting for this because they were setting it up. Disa's like, you think you're right, and you were right about that thing. You are wrong in how you're acting, right? Which makes sense. We're leading up to this moment, and it was. I think it was the best acting. I I wrote damn the good scenes, because you have I thought it was a brilliantly set up scene.
Yeah.
The interactions felt real, they felt meaningful, and it just in the midst of all of this garbage is this one shining little scene,
I
where
wasn't mad
they
at that scene.
interact.
I
Yeah,
wasn't mad at
I
that scene. If
thought
you
it
wanna
was
tell
good.
a story about Middle Earth, there was nothing unbelievable about a king dwarf and a king prince,
Mhm.
or a prince dwarf having to apologize for something and overcome their stubborn nature. That is perfectly legitimate to write into a story without breaking a lick of lore, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That felt like I would say that scene is the only scene that felt anything close to the writing that's in House of the Dragon. Because the personal one-on-one scenes in House of the Dragon are really solid, really good. The interactions are really great, and you get that time and time and time again. This show, you get one.
It's
You get
episode
one
3.
good interaction, you get one good scene, and all the rest are crap,
Yeah.
shallow, nothing. What
So,
a my next note is what a boring show.
yeah, this episode was just difficult to watch. I think on it was the same thing for the first season. Numenor is so disappointing as far as how they're presenting it,
Mhm.
how they look, the movement through of the characters through the story, and they're so dull. I don't care about Numenor. Look, I actually pay attention when Galadriel's on screen because she pisses me off so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I am so apathetic when it comes to Isildur and Numenorians, period. I do not
Mhm.
give a crap. I'm falling asleep as soon as anything Numenor comes on screen.
I was more intrigued by the humans at, Pelargir.
Mhm.
It just because it's like, "Oh, this is like an old city," and Isildur's like, "Yeah, dude, we make this kinda stuff."
Mhm.
And Theo's like, "Nah, that's not.
You lying.
You're lying." And
Sounds
that would
silly.
make sense to these people. Them living here that's more intriguing. That seems like it could have more stuff. Uh, they set up to meet Theo and Isildur after Don Lemonless he tries to be a father to Theo, and he's like, "Dude, I don't like you."
Theo throws it in his face too.
He's like,
How mean.
I'm kind of with Theo here because this guy,
Came on to his mom.
came on to his mom,
He's
and
not his
now
dad.
he's trying to
He's
be
an
your dad.
elf.
He's an old knife ears. Ugh. Yep.
Old knife ears.
Yeah.
I think
And then they meet the girl at the fire. Did you catch the line here?
the line.
The line. There is one line of dialogue that's super important here.
Okay, let me think. Because honestly, I told you I was struggling to stay awake during this
He
episode.
explains what happened to his mom.
Mhm,
It's like it was my fault. I didn't want to tell anybody.
mhm.
She says, it's like I'm looking for that moment. I feel like there's a moment. I feel like that I could be something more. I feel like I could honor, who she was and become more than that moment. And she's like, she would understand. She says, "You were precious to her."
Oh, yes.
And I was like, "That's deliberate.
Yeah.
It's deliberate. It's deliberate." It's a quote from The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I know. It's like Gimli's.
Yeah, I was like, that's very obviously that there's no subtext. She's like, you were precious. You were
Mhm.
precious to her. Right.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
know ultimately what happens to Isildur, but
Mhm. He gets a
they're
precious of his own.
they're trying to be smart with their writing.
Look,
Doesn't
I'll tell
feel
you what. I'll tell
smart.
you this: when it comes to Easter eggs and just ripping off Peter Jackson's trilogy and inserting lore for funsies, not for storytelling, but for funsies,
Mhm.
they're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
If that makes you upset, like me, then you hate it. It's
Yeah.
very upsetting.
Yeah, if you're watching to be like, "Oh my gosh, look. Remember in the Lord of the Rings when the ring tumbles down the stairs, it goes bing, 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 and then it
Right.
finds Bilbo. It found Galadriel just like Bilbo, remember?
If you're a person also that
Dude,
goes like,
it's layers.
"Oh, look, look,
It's
look, look, look,
subtext,
look,
it's
look.
layers.
He said Anatar, right?"
Yeah.
And that's the correct name from the book. Isn't that crazy? But you don't point out the fact that the whole process of him becoming Anatar is incorrect
Yeah. Dude,
from
it's
the
like
books. You
it's
just
like
pointed out the
poetry.
one thing they did that was correct,
It's like
right?
poetry, it rhymes. Um Yeah, there's seems to be like Ents. They're in the woods. There's maybe
Yep.
Ents.
Yep, that's definitely Ents. We saw them in the
The
trailer.
the back in Numenor, the queen gives a pretty weak speech when somebody's like, "You suck. We hate you."
She's like,
Um,
"I" she's like, "Wait a minute. I care about everyone's
yeah.
feelings."
Oh, in the beginning, in the first scene where they're at the gravesite and everybody's no, it's this scene where they're all pushing against her. They're trying to get her.
Mhm.
Isildur's not Isildur, his dad. What's his dad's name?
I don't know. It freaking let me look it up.
Um, Dad's in the crowd reaching out to her.
Yeah.
What is he gonna pull her into the crowd?
That's a good point
He's
because he
gonna
was
pull
not in a
him
good
out.
place either.
She's blind.
Yeah.
He's like, my queen, my queen. Like he's gonna pull her into the crowd.
Elendil. Elendil.
Elendil, yeah. Um,
Yeah, he wasn't gonna do anything good for her.
yeah.
She had the high ground,
And
right?
I feel stupid because I almost didn't notice it that Farazan as he's walking up to the eagle when it shows up. He's
Mhm.
wearing the red that he told her to wear.
Mhm.
Um,
You almost feel stupid because you didn't notice
I
that?
almost feel stupid because until that moment I didn't notice.
There's thousands of people that didn't notice.
And
People turn their brain off when they watch shows. I don't know if you know that.
yeah, and then the eagle flies in. It's obviously looking at her, but he
Mhm.
walks up to it. It screeches a bit, and they're like, and then that one dude's like, Farazan, Farazan.
The
Come on, guys,
eagle
come on.
likes
Yeah,
bears
come on.
on. And when I watched that scene, I was just like, I thought the sea was always right. I guess
Yeah,
now
now
it's
the
the
Eagles.
Eagles. The
Well,
Eagles are
and
always right.
so this scene makes a little bit of sense to me. The
Mm.
politicians, I think, would definitely be like, yeah, Farazan's a better leader than the blind lady who's consulting Palantirs behind everybody's back.
Yeah.
Makes the blind lady who failed in an expedition to save people,
Uh-huh.
got more people killed, came back blind, and is consulting a Palantir. Yeah, makes sense. Maybe we should go with Farazan.
Maybe. This one thing, I was reading some of the appendices,
Mm.
and I don't know if do you know anything about the fall of Numenor? Have you read into that?
I haven't read into it, but I know that there
You
was.
watch videos on it or stuff?
I've heard that Sauron was like became the number one advisor.
Mhm.
He got them to build temples to Morgoth, got them sacrificing babies,
Mhm.
believing that they could go into the West,
Mhm.
become immortal.
Yeah, they broke their covenant with the Valar, right?
Mhm.
And and yeah, it gets pretty wild, but the thing is, so this character is incorrectly usurped by
Mhm.
Farazan in the book.
Yeah.
However, I feel like we have a long ways to go between Farazan. What is it? Is it Farazan
Mhm.
and the fall of Numenor? Like, I don't think those are close events. So what
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out is, are they got to be time crunching again,
They
right?
are. Yeah,
Because
they are.
before the end of
Squishing everything together,
season
dude.
5, you know what I mean? Before the end of season 5, if we ever get to it,
Mhm.
Numenor is gonna fall. Because they already set it up in freaking season 1 when someone was having visions of it, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be swallowed up by the
Yes.
ocean. So the time thing is going to
Too
be
much.
confusing to me. They're time crunching way too much here.
Yeah. So just to sort of wrap it up, they give Durin the third. He gives them Mithril at against the advice of his son, who just literally just apologized. You would think that you'd be like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I love you, and I was wrong. I've got a really bad feeling about this, Dad. Maybe don't do it.
Maybe back off.
I should have listened to you when you were right. You know, could you please listen to this feeling?" And then he just goes and does it. He gives him the Mithril, which is handed to Sauron, which is important because Halbrand never touched the 3 elven rings, but he touches the Mithril.
Yes.
That goes in. See?
He needs to be able to touch it so he can whisper his sweet nothings to it as he
see,
drops
guys?
it in.
See?
See?
It is good.
Celebrimbor made that 3 elven ones. Halbrand didn't. Now Halbrand's the one
Halbrand's involved.
making
Exactly,
these
dude.
rings. So these are going to be the evil rings.
Um,
And
Elrond gets promoted above Galadriel and above everything else. That's the worst thing for her. Like above finding out that Halbrand is Sauron, above finding out that she made a mistake. This is like the zoom in, the music, everything is telling us like this really sucks for her. She really hates
my
this.
punishment is to be
I have to follow Elrond, my close friend. I hate this.
I'm 1,000 years older than Elrond.
This guy I've known for a long time.
Freaking,
Stupid.
I think we've about hit it, dude.
We've hit it. It's over. I got work tomorrow. I gotta get to bed.
So does everybody. It's almost 11
Yeah.
o'clock here on the Eastern time zone. And yeah, it's going to be a wild 5 more weeks. Luckily,
Yeah.
this is the hardest one because we don't
This
have to
is
sit
a
through 3
good thing.
episodes.
We don't have to do another 3 episodes.
What a stupid thing that they decided to do.
Mhm.
Drop
They
3 episodes.
I think they wanted to hurt the movie reviewers.
Well, here's the thing. Usually you do that because there's like a really big moment at the end of the 3rd episode, like it's partway through the season, that you want it to be the big cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
What big happened at the end of episode 3?
Elrond was in charge of Galadriel.
That's the big thing
the
that
big one.
happened.
See, I'd have dropped the 2 episodes and end it with Anatar, Lord of Rings.
Yeah.
Lord of the Lord
That
of
would have
Gifts.
been a much better premiere to this dog crap show.
Yeah. But what they're doing is get 3 episodes out so that we can, when we release the numbers, there's not a significant fall off the way that the
Dude,
first season was. It was like episode 1 and then it's a steady
Yeah.
fall off. They lose the most of their like viewers, whereas this will be like first 3 episodes, then the fall off.
Yeah.
So it'll
Dude,
look better.
I'm telling you 100% that Numenor, that 3rd episode absolutely killed literally probably millions of people's opportunity to watch more of the show.
Yeah, it was
It
pretty boring.
Crushed it because it was the biggest waste, most boring episode. And it wasn't just boring. It made me feel dumb for watching it. Now, this show kind of makes you feel dumb across the board, but this episode made me feel duped. You know what I mean?
They show lots of things, but nothing feels. It feels like nothing happens.
Yeah, because nothing. There's no good payoff. You know,
like they show the orc family. They show the guy being like, "Oh, we have a home. We don't want to go to war.
We saw an eagle,
and then we see a troll."
All right.
Okay.
None of it matters to us, and none of it has any weight.
We're setting things up for later.
We don't look. That was a bad move. A lot of people are saying that it feels like season 1 and season 2 is going to be the same way. that
I was
you have a
promised
movie,
tons of battles.
you have a movie worth of content stretched out across 8 episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was
And
promised battles. They said battles this season. Battles, battles, battles. It's gonna feel like nonstop
there should
battles.
have been, yeah, they said like the whole season was going to be battling.
Yeah.
We're 3 episodes in, your big premiere, no battles yet.
And
No battles on the
I know
horizon,
that
by the way.
JD Payne and Patrick McKay couldn't work on a portion of this show because of the writers' strikes,
Mhm.
but I don't feel like it's that much different than season 1.
No. I mean,
All female directors, every
yeah,
episode.
every single episode. And it's
Um,
just as freaking boring.
it's just as boring and it's just as bad as season 1.
So, equality? Is that what we're saying? Equality between the men and women?
I'm saying maybe hire people for their skills and not
Yeah.
for
Well,
politics.
women can write just as horrible of a show as men can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why, well, we knew JD Payne and Patrick McKay were bad writers. Now we know that everybody else they hired is bad. There's a gnat in here.
All right.
Yeah.
We got to cut this, man. We got to cut it. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you watch this on the replay, dang, you're loyal. And we appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time. Stick around for more Rings of Power and other content. We got to drop something in the middle here just so we don't get freaking bored.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a bored season. We'll see you next time.